Our movie begins with a girl named Becky and her husband, Dan. They are climbing a mountain, and it's clear their hearts are made of iron. They know nothing of phobia or fear. As for me, Marwan, I felt dizzy just watching the scene. But anyway, my friend, they are incredibly excited. We learn they love the sport of high-altitude climbing. Suddenly, Becky's foot slips, and she feels like she's going to fall. Her heart drops into her feet from fear. But Dan calms her down. He tells her it's normal, and that she has climbed much higher distances than this. He encourages her to continue and forget her fear. He pulls her close to calm her. Their third friend calls out to them and asks, "Are you guys crazy? Is this the time for romance?" Becky says she's right and continues climbing, calling for Dan to follow and meet her at the top. Suddenly, a bat flies out of a hollow in the mountain and jumps in Dan's face. Here, Dan loses control of himself and falls off the mountain. He hangs by his safety rope. Becky and her friend Hunter are shocked by what happened. Becky throws Dan an extra safety rope to grab onto and climb, but Dan can't catch it. While trying to reach it, his hand slips and he falls. I don't need to tell you, my friend, that he was literally shattered into pieces. To preserve your well-being, I won't show the scene. From the shock, Becky starts screaming hysterically. She and Hunter can't comprehend what happened. The biggest shock is for Becky, who loved Dan madly. After a year, we see Becky collapsed. Even though a whole year has passed, she hasn't been able to get over Dan's death. She has reached a state of depression that makes her not answer any calls or even meet her friends. She isolates herself from the whole world and spends her time drinking and listening to voice recordings of Dan's voice. One day, her father reaches her place and tells her, "It was so hard for me to find you. Why don't you answer my calls, girl? I know you love Dan, but not to this extent. You're gonna kill yourself with what you're doing. Generally, staying away from all the people who love you isn't the solution. This way, you'll never forget Dan, and you'll keep suffering." But she doesn't listen to him. She walks away and leaves him. Here, he calls out to her and asks an important question. If it were you who died, would he be in the same state as you, or would he have continued his life normally? The question is logical, and that's why Becky doesn't want to answer. She asks her father to stay away and leave her alone, then walks away. Later, Hunter visits Becky. As soon as Becky sees her, she hugs her and cries. Hunter talks to her and asks, "Why do you look so destroyed, my girl?" We understand they haven't met for a long time because, despite what happened, Hunter continued climbing heights. She tells Becky she came to meet her because Becky's father called her a while ago and asked for her help. She continues, "Regardless of everything, there's an important step I'm going to take, and I want someone to share it with me. You might not like the idea, but at least think about it. Look at this picture. It's a picture of a television tower called B67. This tower is only half an hour away from us. I was planning to climb it. It's high and will let me achieve a new feat. What do you think about coming with me? You can return to your old life and get out of this depressed state. It'll be an awesome adventure and bring you back to your glory days. What do you think?" Becky is terrified by the idea because she hasn't climbed anywhere for a long time and might not be able to return after such a long break. She cries and tells Hunter she can't, especially since this time would be the first without Dan. She breaks down and cries, with Hunter beside her calming her. The next day, she's surprised that Hunter is still in the house and hasn't left. She feels that Hunter's presence makes her feel better. Because of this, she decides to take a daring step and agrees to climb the tower. Maybe this step will make her improve, forget Dan, and return to the old days. But my friend, they didn't know that the winds would bring what the ships don't desire. Hunter is happy with Becky's decision and gets very excited. They don't waste time and head immediately to the tower's location in full excitement. As soon as they see it, they are amazed by its height. Becky is surprised when she learns from Hunter that this tower will be demolished shortly. She feels what they're doing is crazy because the tower being demolished means it's very old and climbing it is dangerous. But she decides to continue regardless of the consequences. Before they start climbing, Hunter makes a video documenting what she's going to do. Later, they see vultures eating a dog's carcass, but suddenly Becky notices the dog is still alive and suffering while the vultures tear its flesh. She runs quickly toward them and chases them away from the poor dog. She wishes she could save it, but unfortunately, it's already dying. Becky has a very soft heart, unlike Hunter, who films the dog just to make memories of her crazy experience and isn't affected by what happened to it. Hunter believes if they were in the bird's place, they would do the same, because survival is most important, and when there's hunger, feelings disappear. Afterward, Becky approaches the tower. As soon as she gets close, she feels an unnatural terror. From up close, the tower looks much higher than from afar. She feels paralyzed and starts crying, telling Hunter she can't continue. From so much fear, she reaches a point where she's shaking. But Hunter calms her down and succeeds in encouraging her to continue. helping her overcome her fear. She starts preparing for the climb. Hunter goes first to encourage Becky to follow. She talks to her from above, saying, "See? It's totally easy." But despite her words, Becky still feels afraid. In reality, deep down, she fears her fate will be like Dan's. The poor thing doesn't know her fate will be worse than Dan's. Despite her confused feelings, she tries to control her fear and follow Hunter. Every now and then, Hunter encourages her to keep going and not stop. After a while, they rest to drink water and are able to talk. Hunter tells Becky they've finished half the tower's height and that there's more than 300 meters left, meaning they've climbed as high as the Eiffel Tower. Because of Hunter's words, Becky gets excited and says the important thing is we finish the whole height and get this over with. They continue climbing until they reach a height of 60 meters. Hunter stops to look at the view excitedly, unlike Becky, who is terrified and can't open her eyes. Can you imagine, my friend, what 60 meters means? Literally, if one of them falls, her body would be destroyed and unrecognizable. The real shock for Becky is when she discovers the tower's length is 120 meters. Her friend was just calming her when she said they'd covered half the distance, as the 60 meters they climbed was the actual half. She feels unnatural confusion and fear, but she's reached a point where there's no turning back. For her, she must finish what she started. Maybe then she can regain her self-confidence. But against her will, every time she climbs a bit, she involuntarily looks down and feels she's reached her limit and can't go on. She calls out to Hunter, "Enough, girl. Let's go down." But Hunter refuses and says if you go back, fear wins. You must continue even if it's hard. She continues climbing and encourages Becky until Becky follows her. They climb a great distance. All this time, Becky is resisting and feels she might faint from fear. After great struggle, they reach the top of the tower. Hunter stands looking at the view, feeling an unnatural sense of victory and happiness. But Becky only feels terror from the view, which makes her feel she could fall down at any moment. She tries to get excited so as not to ruin Hunter's joy at the achievement. She stands beside her, and they take pictures and record videos to document the legendary moment. They show people their achievement, especially since Hunter has a large number of followers interested in climbing. Hunter literally lives without a heart and knows nothing of fear. She grips the top of the tower and swings, having Becky film her. Here, Becky feels fear again, but this time it's doubled. She feels Hunter will fall any second, and she might lose her like she lost Dan. She gathers her courage and films her. Hunter comes to stand beside her and says, "Now it's your turn. Do exactly what I did so I can take a souvenir photo of you." Becky is shocked and says, "You must be joking. I could never do that. I made it up here, and that's more than enough." But Hunter insists that Becky do what she did. Believing this way, Becky will overcome her fear and become the old Becky again. After much urging, she convinces her to do it while holding her hand. Indeed, Becky does what Hunter said. As soon as she sees the photo Hunter took of her, she feels her self-confidence has returned. She thanks Hunter, because without her, she wouldn't have been able to do it. She feels she has overcome her fear and returned to being the old Becky. Poor thing, my friend. She thought this was the end of the journey. She didn't know it was the beginning. They start to head down back to the ground. But after a few steps, something unexpected happens. Because the tower is so old, its iron is very corroded. That's why it wasn't operational, and the government was going to demolish it. The iron can't withstand much work and falls apart. Here, the moment Becky was terrified of happens. Becky falls from the tower. She would have died if not for the safety ropes connecting her to Hunter, who is still standing on the summit. Hunter tries to hold Becky with all her strength so they don't both fall. Becky is dying of terror and screams hysterically while calling for Hunter, a breath-holding moment that destroys the senses. Hunter uses all her strength and pulls Becky up, succeeding in getting her back onto the tower. From the shock, they both start laughing. Becky speaks, not comprehending what's happening, saying, "I almost died in seconds." She looks down and feels lost, not knowing how they will get down since the tower's ladder broke. Hunter says, "The situation is terrifying, but surely there's a way. Look, we can call for help." They both grab their phones. Here was the shock. They discover their phones have no signal. Becky breaks down over what happened to them. Hunter tries to calm her, convincing her they will find a solution. Becky loses her temper and says, "What solution? We're trapped on a tower 120 meters high with no ladder to go down and no signal to call for help. In short, we're among the dead." Suddenly, they find a telescope on the tower. Becky calms down a bit, comforted by the idea of the telescope, thinking it might help. But suddenly, she notices the bag containing the water fell while she was falling. Here, she becomes terrified again and tells Hunter that if they don't die from the fall, they'll die of thirst. As usual, Hunter tries to calm her, saying, "I'm sure when the ladder fell, it made an unnatural noise. Surely everyone is moving now to find out what happened. When they get here, they'll discover we're on top of the tower and save us." Suddenly, they discover Becky's leg was injured when she almost fell. Becky is horrified by the sight of her bleeding leg, but Hunter calms her, takes off her own shirt, and ties the wound with it. After that, they both sit in place. They have nothing to do but wait for someone to come save them. They film a video to record the miserable moment they're in. Even though it's dark from all directions, Hunter is optimistic and has hope that one day she'll watch this video and laugh. She stands on top of the tower and looks through the telescope. She sees a car near the tower. Becky grabs the telescope from her and looks through it, noticing there are no people near the car. She feels frustrated again and starts lamenting her luck, telling Hunter she was wrong and surely no one called emergency services, because if someone had, they would have arrived by now, especially since 5 hours have passed. Here, Hunter is convinced by her words and decides she must rely on herself and find a way to get out of the mess they're in. After thinking, she tells Becky there might be signal a bit lower down. Even though it's dangerous, she must risk going down to search for signal. It's a crazy idea, but Becky agrees since there's no other solution. Hunter writes a post asking for help, then lowers the phone down. She waits to hear a signal that the post was published, but she doesn't hear any sound. She feels frustrated and decides to risk more by going lower, but she feels she might fall. So she decides to return quickly to the tower's summit. When she gets up, she pulls the phone up and looks with hope, but unfortunately, the post wasn't published. All her ambitions are destroyed. The phone didn't catch any signal. After long thought, another idea comes to them, dropping the phone to the ground. But this idea is difficult because the distance is very high, and the idea of the phone landing without breaking is almost impossible. But necessity is the mother of invention. So the idea comes to put the phone inside a shoe. They put part of Hunter's clothes inside the shoe to act as a cushion so the phone doesn't break. Then they throw the shoe down and look through the telescope to make sure it didn't break. Here, there's a new surprise. They see a man talking on the phone. They feel hope and call out to him, hoping he hears them, but he doesn't hear them or even notice the phone that fell near him. Suddenly, he starts moving with his dog. Becky is shocked and throws her other shoe toward the ground, hoping it hits the man so he notices their presence. But he's busy talking on the phone and doesn't feel anything. Becky breaks down, feeling there's no hope, but suddenly, the man sees the shoe and goes to look at it to see where it came from. He looks around, but finds no one else in the place. So he doesn't care about the matter, throws the shoe and walks away. In that moment, Hunter and Becky collapse because they had hope he would see them. What adds to their collapse is not knowing if the post was published or not. After what happened, Becky and Hunter keep watching the place through the telescope. Through their monitoring, they discover the person they saw under the tower is sitting in the car they saw before, and his wife is with him. Now hope returns to them, especially since they have a flare gun and can fire a signal. At that time, surely the man will discover their presence. They wait until nightfall so the signal is clear. They fire the distress signal, praying he sees it. Indeed, he sees the signal and starts moving toward the tower. Now Hunter is at the height of her happiness and says to Becky, "Didn't I tell you they would see the signal and save us?" But what happens fails Hunter's expectations. The man and his wife steal her car and ignore them completely. They take Hunter's car and leave. Hunter and Becky lose their tempers and their ability to be patient. They break down because their last hope is gone. Despair takes over them both, and they sleep in place. Hunter drifts off to sleep and almost falls off the tower, but Becky feels her and catches her quickly. Their situation is very bad, especially since Becky's wound is infected and needs cleaning fast. While things are darkening from all sides, Hunter decides to make it darker. She confesses to Becky that she betrayed her with Dan before he died. Becky is shocked and asks how that happened. Hunter breaks down and says she intended to keep it a secret, but we might die here, so I must confess this secret. Maybe it will ease my guilt. She tells her she loved Dan because when she dealt with him, she found him different from any other guy she'd been with, but she knew he was married to Becky and loved her. At the same time, she loves Becky and considers her her best friend. So she sacrificed her feelings, stayed away from Dan, and tried to forget him. After Dan's death, she collapsed just like Becky, but she couldn't show her collapse because it would look suspicious. So she stayed out of sight, specifically staying away from Becky, disappeared for a long time, and didn't return until she had improved. She keeps crying and apologizing to Becky, begging her to forgive her. But Becky, my friend, doesn't answer her. She feels she is separated from the world and returned to the depressed state she was in. She keeps looking at the ring, not knowing what to do or how to deal with Hunter after what she learned. At that time, her phone makes a sound. She takes it out and turns off the sound. Hunter is surprised and asks, "What is that sound?" Becky says it's the alarm sound. She tells her she set this alarm after they threw Hunter's phone to the ground, hoping that when it rang, they would have reached their homes and been saved. Their frustration increases because 24 hours have passed and nothing has changed. Becky guesses Hunter's phone was shattered, which is why the post wasn't published. They are dying of thirst. Moreover, there was a drone in the bag that fell onto the satellite dish when Becky almost fell. They could use it to call for help. Although the idea seems crazy, Hunter decides to risk it and go down for the second time. Becky warns her because it's dangerous and she could die, but Hunter says there's no other solution. They must do it, or they'll die waiting. She ties the rope well to the top of the tower and ties herself to the other part of the rope. She looks at Becky, my friend, apologizes for what she did to her, asks her for forgiveness, and tells her she loves her. Becky feels as if Hunter is saying goodbye. She worries and asks her to be careful. Then Hunter goes down. She almost falls but holds on, stabilizes her feet well, and descends until she reaches the place where the bag is. But it's a bit far from her, and the rope is short. Becky asks her to come back, but she refuses. Here, Hunter does something completely crazy. She unties the safety rope, my friend, so she can reach the bag. The scene is pure madness, my friend. I'll give you a live piece of this scene so you can feel the atmosphere. Here it is. Anyway, we see Becky becoming even more terrified by what Hunter did. She begs her to return, but Hunter doesn't listen. She grabs the rope and tries to get the bag. She goes completely crazy and throws herself onto the dish where the bag is hanging. She's terrified of falling, but luckily, she lands exactly on the dish. She drinks, not believing she finally drank. Then she gets up with difficulty and tries to reach the rope, but there's a distance between her and it. The matter is difficult. Here, a dangerous idea comes to her. She ties the camera pole to the bag, extends the bag, and hooks it onto the rope using the pole. This way, she lengthens the rope a bit so she can reach it. Then she jumps, catches the bag, and succeeds in holding on. She calls out to Becky and tells her to pull her up. Becky is terrified by the idea that her friend might fall while she's pulling her. Then she'd feel she killed her. But she gathers her courage and pulls her up. She succeeds in pulling her to the top of the tower, but only after a great struggle. Afterward, they rest, not believing they succeeded in getting the bag. Luckily, they now have paper and a pen to write distress messages. They put the message inside the flying camera, drone, and move it using the remote control. They focus on landing it in a populated area so anyone who sees the distress message can save them. Then, they wait for anyone to appear. This time, they have great hope of being saved. But a long time passes, nothing changes, and no one appears near the tower. At night, Becky wakes up and doesn't find Hunter beside her. She turns on her phone's flash and calls out to her, terrified. Suddenly, a vulture attacks her. She gets scared and pushes it away, shaking with fear. She looks beside her. Here was the shock. She finds another vulture eating Hunter, who is dead. In that moment, Becky screams from the terror she's in. In that moment, she wakes up and finds Hunter beside her. It turns out everything she saw was just a dream, my friend. We learn the camera returned because it's programmed to return to the place it took off from. In the morning, they decide to send another distress message because no one saw it the first time. But a big problem appears. They must charge the camera. Here, they find themselves in a catastrophe because they have a charger but no power source. After thinking, they decide to put the charger in place of the warning light at the very top of the tower. The matter is almost impossible, because to do that, they must climb 9 more meters, the length of the pole at the end of the tower. Becky decides to risk it and climb. Hunter encourages her, saying it's only 9 meters, but Becky will feel it's more because her body is weak and she's afraid. She must be strong to continue. Anyway, Becky gets encouraged and reaches the lamp's location, removes it, and puts the charger in its place. She decides to keep holding onto the pole until the camera charges. But here, the situation worsens. While Becky is trying to hold on so she doesn't fall, a pesky vulture attacks her. Not only that, it tries to eat the area of her wound. Becky is terrified and starts shaking, almost falling from fear, but she tries to hold on. Every time the vulture approaches, she hides her face. She stays in this situation until she can fully charge the camera. Then she goes down, happy she's finished with the nightmare she was in. She sends the camera to the ground, focusing on getting it to a populated community. But as luck would have it, someone hits the camera with his car, and unfortunately, the camera breaks, my friend. After that, Becky and Hunter lose their last hope of survival. They watch what's happening through the telescope and feel a frustration they haven't felt before. Becky talks to Hunter, saying she can't hold on any longer. It's time to give up and accept death calmly. Hunter is confused by Becky's words and begs her not to give up, still having a faint hope they'll be saved. Becky says, "I'll believe you this time, just like every time I believe you. Give me your other shoe so I can put my phone in it and try to post a new message from it." Here, Hunter looks at her, her face wounded and bleeding. Becky is shocked by the sight and can't speak. Hunter says, "I'm already down there, or did you forget that I fell while trying to get the bag? Did you think I could really get the bag? It's impossible for a camera pole to catch a rope and save me." Here, Becky realizes the truth her mind had refused to accept, which had been imagining unreal events. She discovers the truth. Her friend kept bleeding until she died and her body is still on the dish. That was the reason vultures appeared around her. Everything she saw after her friend died was just hallucinations in her head. The dream she was having, her subconscious wanted to believe it, while her conscious mind didn't. The only real part was that she pulled the bag and sent a distress message. From her fear, she couldn't accept the idea that she was alone. Becky collapses from the fact that her mind was trying to invent a scenario to escape. She sleeps in place, certain this is her end, declaring her surrender. She wakes up to a vulture trying to tear at her wound and eat her. Here, Becky decides she won't give up. She says to herself, survival of the fittest. She grabs the vulture with all her strength and strangles it with her hands. She keeps bashing its head against the pole until she kills it, and she eats it, my friend, raw. As soon as she eats it, she wakes up, and her brain starts working normally again. Now everything before her is reality. There are no hallucinations. She decides she must try one last time and go down to her friend's body, which the vulture was tearing at. When the vulture flies away, she writes a distress message to her father on her phone. She puts the phone inside her friend's shoe. She looks at her friend sadly and says she has to do this. She ties the shoe to her friend's body and throws the body down to ensure the phone arrives without breaking. The truth remains. Becky's plan finally succeeds. The message reaches her father. The rescue team comes and saves Becky, who doesn't believe she's still alive. She runs to her father and hugs him. And so, the session is adjourned. Wait, my friend, there's something important I must tell you. A second part of the movie is coming out soon. As soon as it's released, I'll be the first to do it on YouTube. We want to get this video to 3,000 likes. We are an army of 300,000 subscribers. A whole country. Say everything you want in the comments because I read every single comment and reply to it. If you like action, you'll find it. If you like suspense, we have it. If you like romance, it's also there. A lot is coming. Don't forget to check the channel and see everything you missed, because trust me, everything you see is beyond greatness. Be ready, activate the bell button, and wait for the new stuff. I'm sure the story of the video appearing before you will please you. And that's it.